How is everybody doing today? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about Tesla's Q1 earnings. So it is now released. We have the Q1 report of Tesla's earnings, and we're going to be looking through all of it. I'm going to be telling you my opinions on it. We're going to be looking at this together and then telling you if Tesla stock is a buy right now, a hold, or if you guys should sell it. Currently, I personally have not sold any shares here today, and I haven't bought any shares. I'm still holding my position. It went down, or it is going down quite a bit after hours, down 1-2%. And from what I've seen, they've beat on earnings, on EPS, and basically all around it's a beat for Tesla. So maybe it's a good time to buy right now. They've beaten all earnings. They're doing really well. And the stock is down 1%. Is it a buy? So we're going to be talking about that. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'm trying to do 1,000 subscribers basically as soon as possible. So if you guys can help me reach that goal of 1,000 subscribers, please click the sub button. That would be really appreciated. Now let's just jump straight into it and look at these numbers. Now we have basically we knew the delivery numbers were basically they're on track to deliver, in my opinion, close to 1 million cars. Now they delivered, if we look at if we go down here, we can look at the production, 180k. They delivered even more, 184k cars in Q1. So there, in my opinion, once Model S is on track, we have 1 million cars at the end of the year. Pretty, like, it's looking likely, especially if we get the cherry on top, which is a Cybertruck at the end of the year. Then it's looking real good. But let's just start from the beginning here. We have operating cash flows of 239 million in Q1, which is really good. Now cash decreased in Q1 to 17.1 billion. So let's take a look at that, where basically 2.2 billion decrease in cash, but don't forget that they did buy 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. So basically, we can say that they lost around 700 million, which is expected. I don't really see that as a bad thing at all, just because a lot of it is going into building, like the Cybertruck factories, obviously Giga Berlin, and even the Shanghai factory, which is continuously getting expanded. Model 3 was the best premium sedan in the world. Now, I already went through this report, so I'm going to go on the highlights of it. I'm not going to go through every specific detail, but the Model 3 was the best selling sedan in the world. That is crazy. So obviously, the premium sedans would be like the 3 Series from BMW, for example. Those are pretty good in getting that nice premium sedan market. They like swallow a good amount of that market. But the Model 3 beating that is really good. It's a really good sign, especially when they go down to their more cheaper version of their cars. Production ramp of Model Y is progressing well. The Model Y is expected to be huge in China, so that's really good. Record vehicle production and deliveries in Q1. We already knew this. Their vehicles in Q1 was crazy. No one really expected them to be that good. And then obviously Elon gave the guidance pushing to even potentially hitting 1 million cars in this year, which is crazy because they barely hit 500,000 last year, so they're literally doubling up from there. We see that the revenues from automotives are up 75% year over year, which is really nice. 75% growth. That's actually fantastic to see. So yeah, and obviously Q2 kind of had COVID restrictions to it, where a lot of people did not buy cars. Like, car sales all around the board were down. Tesla grew a little bit, but just take that with a grain of salt for the next few quarters. That I do think the Q2 and then even Q3 a bit were suppressed by COVID, so I think that's something to look at. But nonetheless, Q1 was a normal quarter. 75% is a really good growth. They did less than Q4, which historically January is the worst month. So for them doing 902, or not, what am I saying? But for them doing this many car deliveries in Q1, it's really good. They basically matched last quarter's revenues, which is not anything that's like normal in this space, especially for January, February, March, in that time period. Now the revenue in terms of the operating margins grew, which is really good to see, and it grew 99 basis points. You always want to see the margins going up. Now operating expenses went up a little bit, but that's actually not that bad. That's all good. The net cash provided by operating activities, basically they went from a loss And then now they're up to 1.6 million, which is pretty good. 1.6 billion, which is pretty nice. Revenues grew 74% year over year in Q1. And then profitability, income improved in Q1. So they beat on EPS, like I said, which is really good. And then incurring SBC expenses attributable to the 2018 CEO reward. So obviously Elon Musk got a fat paycheck basically for the growth of the stock price basically. And then here it talks about their cash, a decrease of 17 billion, but 1.2 billion in cryptocurrency purchases, net debt, and the repayment of another 1.2 billion. And then that was partially offset by their free cash flow. And then now we see actually the production numbers that I touched on earlier, 180,000 cars produced with 0 Model S's and Model X's, man. That is crazy that they were able to beat 76%. I mean, look at this, right? We go back a year ago. We look at these numbers, 87,000 3 and Y, 15,000 S and X. If S and X disappeared today, dude, Tesla's, that's literally 15% of their business. 10 to 15% of their business is coming from the S and X. If we lose this car, our production numbers and revenues are falling, right? We can't even imagine it. But then we fast forward a year from now, the 3 and Y production was so high that even 100% year over year decrease in production still leads us to beat last quarter's deliveries. That is nuts. So imagine if they did, let's say they delivered just 15K or 20K of cars. That's already 200K in one quarter. That's already times that by 4. That's already 800,000 cars for the year. Just by doing that, if they don't grow at all for the rest of the year, even if there's zero incentive, like obviously Biden's talking about bringing tax credits to Tesla, even if none of that happens, which even if it doesn't happen, they're still going to grow, right? But let's say that doesn't happen, nothing happens, they're still reaching easily 800K cars by the end of the year, which is why I think they can push really close to 1 million by the end of this year. I don't think that's going to be too far-fetched to say at all. And they still delivered 2,000 in the last quarter, but those were obviously made before this last fiscal year. So those 2,000 cars they delivered were made in 2020. But one thing I really want to mention that I think a lot of people are kind of missing or not taking into account, right? Tesla is going to get so much press once the S and X refresh come out. I think it's going to be so big. I believe there's going to be 100 million plus views around the internet just looking at those cars. Now, if we look, I'm just going to use YouTube as an example. That's what I was using even before Tesla stock went up. I think back a year ago when I made my first Tesla video, I talked about how much like presses or just views on the internet contribute to their actual revenues and how many cars they sell, especially in this day and age, right? If we look at just Tesla races on YouTube, right? Just in the last 365 days last year, you got 10 million, 10 million, 6, 6, 6, 6, and then it keeps going. Like there's literally so many videos of Tesla races, and they're all with older models. They're all with cars that were made years ago. Like the P100D Tesla has been out years ago, like 2017, 2018, this car's been out, and still to this day, it's still getting this many views. So when the updated S and the updated X come out with the played mode, where it's basically the fastest production car we've ever seen, we're going to be seeing easily 100 million views across YouTube, in my opinion. And a lot of people don't realize that's going to translate into so many sales just for this year, or orders at least for this year, that I think they're going to well push up the 1 million car mark. Because guys, got to remember, not only a lot of people watch those videos and they not only think, okay, let me buy the Model S, let me buy the Model 3. I think a lot of people are going to look at those videos and purchase or lease or purchase or do anything and get a Model 3 or a Model Y for themselves. It's a really fast car, and you still get that premium factor of it not being, of it still being a Tesla pretty much. Yeah, it's not an S because a lot of people can't afford it, but I think a lot of those sales and interest will translate to the 3 and Y and even the Cybertruck are in the future Tesla products. So I think that's going to be a really big thing for Tesla. We see that there's supercharging stations, which in my opinion give Tesla such a big advantage, right? The actual charging stations, they went from 2,500 to 2,700 start charging stations, up 41% over a year, over year. Now, this is where I think they need to speed it up, man. I think they need to speed this up because look at it. We have this many charging stations. They're up 41% year over year. Okay. A year ago, they were selling how many cars? 500,000 cars, less than that. Now, this year, they're going to make double that. So we should be in, like, if you want to match it up, car by charger, you want to double the supply of superchargers you have. They're not doing that. They only have 41% increase. Yeah, that's really good, man. 41% is really good. But when you have doubling up of sales year over year, so double the cars are in the road than they were last year in terms of new vehicles, you want to get at least 50, 100% of those supercharger stations. Obviously, 41 is pretty damn good. 44% in terms of connectors. But I think they do need to ramp that up because no one wants to wait an hour to charge their vehicle. But nonetheless, that is still really good because no other automaker has that, man. No other automaker. Obviously, Volkswagen has the Electrified America, I believe is the name. But you can't really match those up. Just Tesla is so far ahead in terms of that. They have such a big advantage. Like people are gonna look at a Porsche or they're gonna look at the new Model S. They're gonna buy the Model S because you can charge it a lot easier. So I think that's a big thing they have. So now they have over 2,000, almost basically 2,700 charging stations around the U.S., Canada, and I believe some even in like Europe and stuff like that. So we look at the ICE vehicles. This was pretty interesting that they actually showed us. Our competitors are 98% ICE vehicles. So this is the EV market. And then what cars do Tesla buyers trade in? So a lot of Tesla vehicles or buyers of Tesla vehicles are either from, I guess, Toyota, Honda, Ford, and then other non-premium brands. So a lot of people are looking at that. So this just shows how small the EV market is right now in terms of car sales and where it could be in the future. So 97% of cars sold globally in 2020 were 98% of Tesla trade-ins. So this is basically showing what people are buying. So let's say I have a Toyota 2012, something like that, Camry. I want to trade it into Tesla. I want to get the Model 3. What cars are people trading in? No one's trading in their BMW. No one's trading in their Lexus. Almost everyone is trading in either a Honda, Toyota, Ford, etc. And that I think that's really interesting to see. That's kind of like a no-brainer, right? I think not many people who drive BMWs and stuff, I feel like they are not the type of person to trade in a car, but it's definitely something interesting to look at. And then we see as more OEMs join our mission by launching EVs. Yes, we've seen a lot of cars or a lot of automakers, Ford, etc., producing electric cars now. We believe consumer confidence continues to increase more and more and willing to make the switch. Our Q1 order rate was the strongest in our history, and we are moving as quickly as possible to add more production capacity, which we know they're doing with the California, Texas, Shanghai, Berlin. And then, I mean, even with, I'm going to go back to that later, but we see something that's pretty interesting here. To be determined. We have future product down here. That's obviously going to be like a Model 2, so you have the Model 3. And then right down here, we're going to see a Model 2 one day, obviously with the Cybertruck. And I don't know are they eventually going to put the Roadster in the homepage? I feel like once it starts selling, but I mean, the Roadster is so out of reach of people. Like, I don't think they'll put the Semi or the Roadster on their homepage, but I guess I could be wrong. But anyways, the future product is like the Model 2, where basically it's going to be a car, preferably around $25K, where it's a Tesla. And yeah, that's going to be pretty darn interesting. So it's in development right now, along with the Cybertruck, etc. So once they do it where the Cybertruck is now starting to be built, then we'll see construction. Because yes, it's interesting that they put in development, but I guess once they start doing all the like actual construction of the Cybertruck, because obviously they're not making it right now, but towards the end of the year, hopefully even sooner, we should be seeing the Cybertruck actually start being in construction in terms of the cars and stuff. Like once the factory is built. So yeah, autopilot and full self-driving. Okay, let me backtrack with the Cybertruck because I don't know why they haven't changed this. Because now I'm thinking about it, right? The Elon actually said it's finished. Like the Cybertruck design is done. So I mean, is the in development means they're still developing the Cybertruck? I thought they were done, according to Elon. So, I mean, that's something interesting to look at. Autopilot and full self-driving. Our team continues the beta. So, this is basically global premium vehicle sales. And then this is the Model S EPA rating, I guess, with the improvements of the battery and the efficiency of the car and also software updates. So let's look at the global vehicle sales. I think this was really interesting. Look at the Model 3. They went from nothing. 2018 is when they really started ramping, and then the Standard Range Plus came out. Dude, they're growing. Look, everyone had a dip back in COVID. Some of them rebound, but Tesla, look at Tesla's rebound. From this, look at my cursor. From here, all the way from here. Look at that rebound, man. Like you had the green, which is Audi Q5. Yeah, they had a pretty decent rebound, but nothing like this. This is way more horizontal. So Tesla basically with their Model 3 in the latest quarter, or latest even 2 quarters, right? Even the 2020 quarter was pretty good. They are by far the best selling sedan. Anything closer to the BMW 3 Series. But even then you have the Audi Q4 E-Class. Everything is so below it in terms of sales. Like they're more than 10K. They're like 5 figures below that, which is kind of nuts. 5-6 figures, right? Now vehicle software, we have the actual EPA range increasing, so that's actually kind of crazy. Just by making it more efficient and making the software updates work with the battery. No automaker has that, man. No automaker has that, where you can change something in the software and then make the car run more efficiently. So they went from 200 below 300. Now all the way up to past $400 in EPA, or not dollars, 400 miles in range. Like that is nuts. Energy storage grew 71% year over year by the popularity of the Powerwall. Demand for a Powerwall continues to far exceed our production rate. Now recently you cannot buy a Powerwall anymore, I think. If you want to buy one for your house, you have to buy a solar roof or like solar panels with it, or they won't even sell it to you anymore. This might be because of this, because it far reaches their production rate. If I'm making 100 Powerwalls, let's say a year, 100 things a year, but 1,000 people want it, yeah, I'm gonna make it more expensive or more hard to be accessed, because dude, that is nuts. And then recovery of Tesla solar deployments grew pretty well. That's pretty nice, especially Q1. A lot of people aren't really looking at that for Q1. Retrofit and solar roof deployment in Q1, strongest quarter in 2.5 years. Look at that. That is actually crazy. Roof deployment grew 9x year over year. That is nuts. Service and others. Now this is something that was very interesting. Used vehicle sales. Look at that growth. 2020 and Q1 annualized. So basically, let's take Q1, times it out by 4, and I believe that's how they got this number. That is crazy, dude. They don't have a left column. They don't even tell us how many they sold. Or do they? Dude, there's like some empty characters here. Is this supposed to be numbers that's like they didn't do it correctly? It is. Look, there's a typo with this. Okay, so basically there's numbers here, but it's blank. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it here. 30K. So basically 30,000 is this number right here. 30,000. Dude, that's crazy that they haven't changed it. Like these numbers here work, but these don't. So I feel like I'm like the only one that actually knows what these numbers are right here for seeing this. But let me look at this. So I have 30K, 5K. So, oh my God, I keep clicking that. Okay, so this is 5,000. So they were originally in 2018 selling 10,000 used cars. And then obviously this is 10,000. This would be 20,000. And then now this number here is 30K. Just below 30K. So 25,000 used cars they're going to be selling. That's not bad. Like that is not bad. Now, if you take a Ford. Ford usually has dealerships that does it for them. So a lot of that revenue they're not seeing. But Tesla sells a car. Now you can buy it back and then sell it again to make 2 times the revenues, or not 2 times the revenues, but revenue twice from the same vehicle. A lot of other manufacturers are not doing this, or they have so many costs that they actually have to occur, where they don't really make a profit, where the dealerships make a lot of the profit with warranties and stuff. Tesla can do that just by selling the car twice. Not to mention, now those people are going to go out and charge those cars, maybe buying full self-driving with those cars. I mean, Tesla can buy a used car, add autopilot, and sell it for $5,000 more, $10,000 more. That's nuts. There could be easily a time in the next few years where they're selling 100,000 used cars. that's already, I mean, that side of the business is very nice. That a lot of people, that a lot of like other OEMs don't really do, and I feel like Tesla just has that advantage where they do so many things. Now, one thing I want to look at, if they say anything about insurance, that's pretty interesting. So their volume cash is growing. Obviously, we expect operating margins to grow. Nice. And we have photos, Giga Berlin. You guys can pause it and take a look. Basically, this is the factory. It's very nicely done, in my opinion. I think they did this so quick, dude. If you remember, this was completely empty. That is nuts. And then Giga Berlin, Giga Casting. That looks kind of crazy, right? I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I don't see much from here, but I mean, it does look pretty cool. Stamping press, I believe this picture was there last time, where they basically stamp each panel, I believe, of the cars in Giga Berlin. And then now this is the Model Y factory construction in Texas. Look at this, man. This is growing really nicely, dude. This used to be empty, man. This was completely empty just a year ago. I believe even less than that. So that is nuts. Model Y factory interior going along really well, man. In Texas, like, they're not expected to start making cars till the end of the year. This is looking very nice. Model Y interior factory, and then the expansion continues in Shanghai. Look how big this is, dude. For Shanghai, dude. Shanghai or China in general is just such a big market for them because they're able to like distribute to Europe and other or other places in the world. You have the semi, obviously, and now this is something that's interesting. I believe it's the next slide. We have delivery units. We see that it's up. If we take the last 12 months, they did 600,000 cars if you take the last 12 months and you place it as a year's block. So in the last 365 days, they've done around 600K cars. That is nuts. You go from 500K to 600K, 400. Then that is pretty nuts. This whole chart is in the span of 2 years, 3 years, right? Kind of crazy. And then if we look at did they have anything about? Okay, yeah, let's go down to financial statements. Okay, so now they have the revenues growing. Obviously, we saw this earlier, 8,700. And sales, leasing was a small part of that, right? And then the cost of revenues actually decreased a lot. Like, it decreased quite a bit here, where the revenues were pretty stationary. So that's also good to see. Always good to see. I guess they're leasing as well. So now we look at total energy generation and storage was about 600. So they grew quite a bit. I think we saw this earlier as well, where they more than doubled, which is really good to see. And now their net income. We look at their net income, 464 in millions. So $500 million made. That is really good to see. When just take a look a year ago, right? They were doing 68, dude. They were doing so little compared to now, man. That is nuts. Their net incomes are just growing like crazy. And I don't think that is not their Bitcoin net income. Like, that is strictly their business because they have not sold out of it, from what I've seen. And then obviously their total assets is continuing to grow. Their cash decreased, right? Partially because of Bitcoin, but then their assets increased. Does this have anything to do with their Bitcoin? Because I feel like the Bitcoin part of it went up a lot. Like, I don't know if Bitcoin counts as assets. I'm not like an accountant, but they made probably 2 billion, 1 to 2 billion just from Bitcoin. So that's already like, what, another 5% of assets right there. And then we look at cash flow from operating margins. Very nice year-over-year growth there. And then net income to cost shareholders. Are they gonna see their buyout controlling interest? Net income used in diluted EPS. Okay. EPS to common shareholders 0.39. That is pretty good. And then diluted non-GAAP basis 0.93. That is pretty damn good. So their EPS is growing. So I guess that's a beat for today. If we look at this chart now, it's down 2% on the day, man. 2% down on the day. That is kind of crazy. I don't see anything bad here that Tesla has done. I feel like it's just maybe an overbought stock. Maybe they were expecting EPS to be higher, but I thought they were doing pretty well. Maybe it might be their actual. No, but it wouldn't even be from that because we already knew the delivery numbers. I don't know. Maybe people were just betting that this stock would go up a lot. So, yep. And then gap earnings in millions. You guys can see that here. Free cash flow. It's up nicely. Maybe it's the Q1 free cash flow on a NAB gap basis. It was down, but I mean, year over year, they're still very good year over year, right? They were negative last year this time. So this is a really good, they're a much healthier position than a year ago, man. That's for sure. And even by looking at net cash and providing operating activities, that grew a ton. So I think they're doing pretty well, man. Especially, like I said, when the Model S comes out, that's going to be kind of nuts. So we look at Tesla down 2 to 3% right now. I think it's not a bad deal, right? We look at the 4P ratio at 172. I mean, I probably, if I had a small, like Tesla, if you guys saw my last video, Tesla's about 50% of my portfolio. And I usually don't like that, right? But I'm not going to sell Tesla because Tesla is a very, like, I see this company being a lot bigger in 3 years, 5 years, etc. from now. And I don't think I'll ever sell this stock in the short term at all. But if I'm not, let's say I'm not in Tesla, or Tesla's a very small part of my portfolio, am I buying the stock today? Dude, I will definitely look into it. I might actually buy it if I was in that position. So if you guys are watching this right now and looking at that, I mean, let's look at what analysts have them doing in EPS, right? This quarter, they had them doing EPS of 0.23. That's their actual EPS. And then they completely, oh no, what am I doing? That's 2020 EPS. No. There we go. This is what I was like, no, that's not right. 0.79 is the estimate for their EPS. And then I believe they did what? 9.3, right? Was it 9.3? I think it was 9.3. So that is really damn good. So they did beat EPS quite a bit, man. That is really nice to see. If we look at, once again, let's just look at how much they did in terms of their 4Ps, right? 172 is not bad, man, for this company. In my opinion, they're going to grow 50, 60% this year. Next year, they're going to grow 40%. I wouldn't be surprised if they grow more than that. Anything less than 40% next year is even seen bad. So that 4P is just going to keep going down, man, at this price. So if you're a long-term buyer of the stock, this might be pretty interesting, especially since they reported even better earnings. Now we know that they're doing even better. Their solar is growing quite a bit. Their energy sector is very looked into. And even their used car sales, that was a very interesting thing that I saw as well. And as they release the Cybertruck or the Model S comes out, I feel like those will be double what they were the previous version of the Model S, and that's going to easily drive them to over 1 million deliveries, in my opinion, or even 900K to 1 million plus for the end of 2021. So there we go. This was a longer video, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Once again, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible, so if you guys can do that, that'll be really appreciated, and I'll see you on my next one.